Welcome to this episode of Conversations with an Expert, some actionable financial guidance. We've got Vita Romberger here. She's an investment advisor at Ecos Wealth Advisors. Welcome, Vita.
Thank you, Tommi. Thank you for having me.
Budgeting and your experiences, what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have personal finances?
Sure. Well, I feel like a lot of people might think that you need a high salary to ever end up with a high net worth. And that just is not true. The same two people could make the same amount of money, but in the end, one might have a much higher net worth. So we really do love to focus on the habits and discipline when we're speaking with clients.
Behavioral finance, and why do you feel behavior is just as important as just like the math when it relates to financial planning?
Sure. So you can build the most amazing financial plans. You have your spreadsheets, the returns on investments, but if you can't actually put those plans into practice, they won't mean anything in life, right? So we do love to focus on behaviors. Even when we're first meeting with prospective clients, we like to ask them, what does money mean to you? And how did you grow up with money? Did your parents talk about it? Did they not? Was money tight? Was it comfortable? And knowing what those behaviors are really helps us to get to the bottom of maybe why clients act certain different ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It helps us to have a better insight so we can give better, deeper guidance.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good. And why is goal setting the foundation of personal finances?
Sure. Well, goals give our money direction. Right. If we are just saving into this huge pile of money without any sort of goal for it, we might be more apt to just spend kind of wistfully. Right. If our friend calls us and we're going to Costa Rica next month, you want to come? Sure. And then there goes 10 grand. Right. Whereas if you really had a goal for that brokerage account, we know in 5 years we want to build a new house and we need X amount of money. And so we have this actual plan that we need to save this amount of money each month, every year. And in 5 years, we're going to have our goal. You're going to be much less apt to go and spend kind of just mindlessly if you have that goal in place. It's super important.
Yeah. And that kind of goes into our philosophy here at Ecos about value spending. Can you kind of touch on what value spending is and how we talk about that with clients?
Sure. So we all know that we have, we might be able to put a budget in place, and budgets it's kind of a bad word, right? But the way we like to look at it is how we spend based on our values and where we put our time and our treasure, right? So we want to actually spend in the places that matter to us. And that could be very different for many different people, so we like to carve out space within our budget for the things that we truly enjoy and the things that will bring us joy, whether that's getting a cup of coffee in the morning at a coffee shop or going out to dinner on Friday nights with our kids so that we can have some really meaningful quality time together. So whenever we're building out a budget or talking about budgets with clients, we always want to do it based on their values and really carving out that space so that we can really put their money to work where it brings them joy, their values, right? So how do you know what your values are? So you want to just take a moment, think to yourself, where do I spend my time? That will be also. So if you love your family, you love spending time with them, you want to provide joy to them as well, and you know that your kids will talk to you if you're going out to dinner and you're at a restaurant, and they'll actually get that really good feedback with them. You'll get to learn about their days and what's important to them. Then we really want to keep that as part of your expenses, right? That Friday night out at the restaurant is super important to your family horizon. And oftentimes we will put money on a time horizon. We call them different buckets of money. So we have a short-term, an intermediate term, and a long-term bucket of money. So our short-term bucket of money, those are going to be monies that we put into use on a daily basis. It's money that we're paying bills with, money where we have maybe our emergency fund, and we're going to use our checking and savings accounts for this because it's money that's going in, coming out on a day-to-day, monthly basis. And the reason that we use checking and savings accounts is because of their high liquidity. We're not earning much of an interest rate on these accounts, but they're very liquid. So we can get the money same day, we can send it out same day. For that purpose. And that's really why we use those types of accounts. We also consider high yield savings accounts in this type of a bucket because we do want to have emergency funds, right, for those days that we might need them. So we use a high yield savings account because even still, it's going to be earning us a little bit more money than maybe just our regular checking and savings account at the bank. Intermediate bucket of money is going to be within 2 to 10 years. So this money that is money that's a little bit further out, we're going to save for it. And it's going to be for things that we're planning in the future, right? So things that need a little bit more patience and deliberance and savings. So this might be something you're planning a trip with your family to Italy in 5 years, right? So you're going to save on a monthly basis for that. And in 5 years, you'll have that amount that you're going to be able to use on that trip, or possibly a down payment on a home, a new vehicle. And also with this bucket of money, we normally use a brokerage account, so an investment account where we're able to invest in securities. And the rate of return on this account should be higher. The final bucket of money is our long-term savings, and that's normally considered our retirement accounts and for those longer-term financial freedom goals. And it is a little bit farther out there. It's more of a long-term goal. So hopefully there we're able to have a little bit more risk and our returns are greater there as well.
Oftentimes we'll have someone come in or a client that we've known for a long time that says, hey, we don't feel like we're achieving anything. We want to get rich fast or faster, or we want to hit that next level of wealth. How do we do that? And usually they think it's more on the investment piece, which investing obviously does matter, and the rate of return and all of how your investments are allocated. But really it kind of comes down to the budgeting of how much they're spending today versus saving for the future. And so when someone says, well, I don't want to do that, or I can't do that, I can't budget, or I don't have time to budget, why do you think that is?
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly. Like I mentioned before, budget can be kind of like a B word, right? Like it's not something we like to talk about because it sounds restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like we have to, it's almost like, going on a diet with your money. You think, okay, I'm going to have to cut my expenses. I'm not going to be able to spend money. I'm not going to be able to have any fun. And who wants to spend time working on something where you know you're going to be miserable doing it, right? And you're going to feel guilty.
Sure.
So that's I think why people don't want to do it. But hopefully we can spin that on its head and make it a little bit more palatable for clients.
Sure. How do you refine budgeting so that it's empowering and not restricting?
We like to control our money as opposed to our money controlling us. And the way we do that is very empowering because we want to know exactly what we have.
So what approach do you use with clients?
Sure. Well, we love to use the value-based approach, right? And it's very simple. What we're going to do is we want to make sure that every dollar is allocated to a specific place, right? Whether that's spending, saving, or giving. So what you need to do is just think about all of the dollars that you have every month. So all the dollars in your paycheck, and just imagine them as dollar bills, and you just put them on the table. And we need to give each one of them a place in our budget, right? So the first piece is, of course, just paying for the things that we need. So our rent or mortgage, food, transportation, those types of things. We know those have to go out every month, and they're kind of our fixed expenses, but they might be variables such as food, groceries, things like that. But we know we need those every month. So we set that money aside. The next piece then is to give our budget stability. Oftentimes people get off track for those seasonal or one-off type payments. So whether that's lawn care in the summer, that only comes up in the summer, just bring joy to our budget, right? What are the things that we really enjoy? And really creating that space for those value-based spending, whether, like I said before, is that coffee at the coffee shop on Wednesday mornings to get your day started off, or is it going out to dinner with your family? Making sure that piece is also in your budget.
Yeah. And I think that the hardest part of that is I think a lot of people know what to do. It's just the accountability partnership.
Sure.
And that's really where you come in at Ecos, right? Where you offer that accountability partnership to keep people on track.
Of course. Yep. The first step really is to get someone to sit down and look at their budget.
Yeah.
Right? And so at Ecos, if you've done this with me, or if you've been thinking about doing it with me, or if your perspective thinking about maybe I want to do this sort of thing, what we do is we set appointments so that you kind of have a timeline, you have a deadline to get that budget in place, right? And then we'll review it together. So it's not so scary. So yeah, and
there's no judgment because we're also
absolutely
dealing with the same things on a month-to-month thing.
Exactly. Yes. And then we'll review it maybe 2 weeks. How are things going? Or maybe you'll complete your first month and say, well, this really isn't working for me. Let's get a different kind of approach. And that's fine. And that's great. It's fun to work together to do that.
How often should someone revisit their budget?
If they have a good budget in place, tell me, I'd
Mhm.
say, especially if they're working with a partner,
Mhm.
just to kind of touch base on a monthly basis, maybe
Mhm.
5 minutes, say, how did this go? I felt like I really need more money in this category, or
Mhm.
maybe we have too much allocated here,
Yeah.
or maybe, I think we should start saving a little bit more. So on a
Mhm.
monthly basis, and then probably on an annual basis, just to kind of take a full overview of it.
Mhm. Excellent. Good. And what type of program do you recommend? Do you recommend like the old school pen to paper or like an account aggregation tool? Or what do you suggest?
Sure. I think it really does depend on the person, right?
Mhm.
Do you love using technology? Are you really just, it's better for you visually to see it on paper? Or do you like having your credit cards transactions flow into an account aggregation tool? It really depends on the person. So that would be something for you to decide.
Mhm.
But if you are a client here at Ecos, we do have a wonderful tool, our Ecos client portal, where it has a
Mhm.
spending piece to it, and there's a tab at the top, and basically it'll bring all of your credit card transactions into it. It'll categorize it. It'll put in a pretty little pie chart for you, so that you can see exactly the areas where you're spending, and you can adjust those too, so that it is a true picture of your spending.
Mhm. Yeah. And can you kind of explain, back to the whole spending versus saving? And the philosophy behind that is, well, if I'm saving it, I'm giving up something today. But really, what are you doing when you choose to save versus spend?
Sure, sure. We have so many different savings goals, right? Whether
Mhm.
that's short term, intermediate, or long term. And really, we are delaying we're delaying our gratification today,
Mhm.
but we do get
Yeah.
eventually to spend that money in the future, right? So if you're saving for something more intermediate term, like a down payment on a home or a vehicle, eventually, even though you're sacrificing today, you will get to spend that money in the future. The
Mhm.
same thing for retirement. If you haven't visualized your retirement yet, what do you want that to look like? You might want to do that, because
Mhm.
sitting at home watching TV or playing with the grandkids, that's going to cost a lot less than if you're hoping to be on the golf course every day, living resort style, cruising, going on multiple vacations. So it's really good to think about that. And then also it's fun because you are saving today because you want to spend that money later. So it's fun
Mhm.
to kind of, when you have that goal for your money, to kind of visualize it
Yeah.
and think like, okay, great.
Mhm.
One day this is what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to be able to because I've been saving all these years.
Sure. Is budgeting just as important for retirees as it is for people that are still working and in the accumulation phase?
Sure. I think that especially if you get to start when you're younger, that it kind of just, you build
Mhm.
that muscle memory with your budget, and
Mhm.
you kind of get a feel for it after a while.
Yeah.
So hopefully by the time you're a retiree, you kind of have that built. But
The cost of living has gone up. Everyone's feeling it, whether you are a low income earner, retiree, or you're at the top of the food chain and making a high income. It's just depending on where are you feeling it. And so when it comes to inflation, and the cost of living, like food and groceries are still elevated, how do people adjust to accommodate that?
sure,
Like,
sure.
just the cost of groceries are so much higher nowadays than what they were 5 years ago.
Right. Yes. Yes. That has definitely been a hot topic this past year. So even for someone who has been budgeting for years,
Mhm.
they'll notice that their budget is not actually working, because they'll think,
Mhm.
my goodness, this year we're off budget again. We're over budget in groceries or dining
Mhm.
out or the things
Mhm.
that they normally do. Now it's just costing more.
Mhm.
So because of that, again, we want to take a look at our values, and obviously we need to eat, we need to feed our family. So that is something that we just need to increase our budget in, right?
Mhm.
So how do we do that? Well, if our income hasn't gone up over that same amount of time, we're going to look at decreasing in other areas. So are we still using all of those television subscriptions that we have? Do we even know which ones we have anymore? And do we know what's flying out of our bank account without us even knowing? So we want to take a look and take inventory of that. That's normally an area where someone can cut. Like, well, we haven't been watching this. We'll just eliminate that $12 a month, and that'll give us a little bit more.
Yeah.
But maybe it's something even bigger, like, this year we had planned a vacation, or we're planning something like that, but maybe we're going to reduce it to something a little bit less expensive. So,
Someone wants to sit down with you and go through their cash flow and their budget starting out, and just get a fresh set of eyes on it, or an expert looking at it. How do they reach out to you?
Sure. Well, you could certainly call the office. or you could hop on our website. There is a scheduling button there if you'd like to schedule something with me, or if you have an email, feel free to email me anytime.
Excellent. Vita, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes.